We're going to begin by taking a look back at last week, and I absolutely nailed it. I loved Evan Ingram. I faded Irv Smith. Wait, producer's saying that I loved Irv Smith Jr. and I faded Evan Ingram? Oh, you suck at this. So there's my recap of how I did. I did terrible for you at the tight end position, and I'm not positive if I gave any DFS advice in my video last week at the tight end position, but I will be writing them down, and I have a lot of DFS advice for you in this video at the end of it, so stay tuned for that. First of all, a couple of show notes. First off, if you are new to the channel, I will have projections come week 4, but until then, until we get some data samples to work from, we're going in naked to these rankings. I just totally teased almost the entirety of the rankings there. Maybe I'll cover that in post or something. We will be going through the entirety of my tight end rankings, but you can find all of my rankings up live at the website. This is a living, breathing sheet. Every time I make an update here, immediately upon on my website, it also gets updated. So you can check them out there. There's a link down in the description. The website is right below me, www.theFFforge.com. And on Sunday morning, 1 hour prior to kickoff, you can also see the updated rankings live here on YouTube. And you can get any start-sit advice that you have from me. So please come on and join me for that if you wish to. I think that's going to bring us right into the tight ends. Starting off with the first tier of tight ends, we have Travis Kelce looking likely to go this week, so that is a good sign. Mark Andrews, I believe, practiced today on Wednesday, so that is a good sign. Both of them, obviously, in my tight end 1, tight end 2, followed by TJ Hawkinson. This video is coming out Friday, so TJ Hawkinson, Dallas Goedert will be taken off of this list, but this is where I had him ranked. Then Darren Waller in at my tight end 5, followed by Evan Ingram and George Kittle. So I'm a little high on Dallas Goedert. Really love the matchup, though. There's no way I am sitting him this week, even after last week. It happens. And Darren Waller, George Kittle, I'm a little bit low on, but whatever. Love this matchup for Evan Ingram. Darren Waller was a little bit limited, I believe, in his snap share last week, so I think that's something that will increase and make him a better play, as well as just not playing Dallas. Let's move on to my second tier here. Starting off at my tight end 8, I have Kyle Pitts, followed by Pat Freiermuth. We'll see if he is a go. We'll see. I gotta imagine it probably will be, but it really depends on the severity of that injury. I just feel like we would have heard if it was really severe by now, and tight ends tend to work through injuries pretty well usually. And then Cole Kmet, I have in at my tight end 10, going up against Tampa Bay, and I am apparently 10 spots higher than the average expert consensus ranking, the average expert, the ECR, on Fantasy Pros website. And so this surprised me. He was ranked 20th as of early Wednesday morning yet. For all of tight ends, he had the 4th most targets last week. He had the 2nd highest snap share out of all tight ends last week. He's going up in a good matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in week 1, which is an absolutely irrelevant sample size, especially when you consider that they faced TJ Hawkinson. Tampa Bay allowed the 6th most fantasy points to the tight end position out of all teams. But still, DraftKings has them ranked as the 29th worst defense versus tight ends, and I know they're not just simply looking at what I just said, because otherwise they would have been the 27th best matchup for tight ends. Cole Kmet ended the week ranked the 6th highest tight end via fantasy points scored in week 1. I just really don't understand this ranking of Cole Kmet. I think he is essentially a must-start, so these top 7 tight ends are my must-starts. And these next 3 tight ends are, I feel like you have to play them even if you don't necessarily want to kind of guys. Let's move on to my next tier. And this is a big tier going from tight end 11 all the way down to tight end 22, which starts off with Tyler Higbee, followed by David Njoku, Sam Laporta, Hunter Henry, Dalton Kincaid, Luke Musgrave, Gerald Everett, Dalton Schultz, Zach Ertz, Chigozie Okonkwo, Juwan Johnson, and Jake Ferguson. And I have things to say. So first of all, Tyler Higbee, through 1 week, there isn't a lot to dislike about this matchup and the potential for Higbee. But as I said for Cole Kmet and that sample size of 1 week against tight ends, especially, who knows? But I wasn't only talking about the matchup. Like the target share, the amount of targets. I mean, the snap share was really good. The amount of targets was okay for him. All of those things working in favor of Tyler Higbee, and San Francisco wasn't very good against tight ends with 1 week into the season. But they're still San Francisco, and this is still the Rams of 2023 until proven otherwise, more than beyond one game here against Seattle, who maybe we overestimated anyways. That brings us to my first and only, I guess, fade for the tight end position, David Njoku, going up against Pittsburgh, having 4 spots lower than the ECR. Through 1 week, he had 73% of the snap share, so that's pretty solid, not amazing. He did not have a great amount of targets in the game, and Pittsburgh did well against a banged-up George Kittle. So I'm just a little bit weary on David Njoku this week, but he's in this group. You can start any one of these guys, and I'm not going to argue against you starting them, and you could start Jake Ferguson over Tyler Higbee, and I wouldn't argue against that either. This is truly a conglomerate of a tier that put them in whatever order, and I'm going to look at it. I'm going to say, yeah, that's fair. I can make arguments for all of them being higher or lower if I really want to. That's going to bring us to Hunter Henry at my tight end 14 spot. There is a lot to like about him this week. Given last week's performance, I just won't be surprised if Gesicki gets more fantasy points this week than Hunter Henry does. I also won't be surprised if they both score a touchdown this week. I would still play Hunter Henry with delight this week. He was almost my love him. And obviously Cole Kmet maybe should have been my love him given how different my ranking is versus the ECR. But it is what it is. That brings us to my actual love him here. Took a little bit of a risk with my love him with Dalton Kincaid and at my tight end 15 going up against Las Vegas. Really like that up a lot for the matchup. It's a solid matchup. And he was on the field for 80% of snaps last week, so that was great to see. I knew there would be some sort of potential split between him and Dalton Kincaid, but they did use 2 tight end sets a lot, which is something that we thought was definitely possible. But to that extent, week 1 is absolutely amazing for our rookie tight end, first one taken of the draft. The amount of targets he got was not great, but once again, it's a really promising setup on a good offense here for Dalton Kincaid to be pretty good this year at tight end. Then that's going to bring us to my tight end 16 in Luke Musgrave. Most of his production was on a fluke play, and there will be limited plays this week for this offense going up against Atlanta, almost certainly. So I'm not overly excited to play Luke Musgrave this week, but I wouldn't go out of my way to not play him either. There was a lot of things to like for him as well in week 1 in this offense, and you're not too afraid of Atlanta's defense. It just comes down to the amount of opportunities is my biggest concern. Then we have Zach Ertz at my tight end 19. And I am surprised that I am high on him at tight end 19, 5 spots higher than the ECR currently. He picked up right where he left off last season prior to his injury by receiving the most targets of all tight ends on week 1 when he's coming back from that injury where he wasn't even necessarily guaranteed to play this week. He was still on the field for the 11th highest snap share out of all tight ends as well. He's just a super safe option who has the ability to at least increase that snap share this coming week. The only thing about him is the upside. That's a big concern. Touchdowns. How often are the Arizona Cardinals going to score touchdowns? So far, I believe, on offense, it's a 0% rate. Then we have Chigozie Okonkwo at my tight end 20, right behind Zach Ertz. Speaking of upside, here is a guy who does have immense upside due to his individual talent and how that would translate into fantasy points, big chunk yardage. And what got me to move him up actually a little bit higher than I had him ranked as of yesterday was when I looked at how much the Titans passed. I didn't realize that they threw the ball like 34 times. They only ran it like, I don't know, maybe it was 18. I know it was 14 times for Derrick Henry. This new offensive coordinator is going to be passing a lot more, it really appears, because that was a close matchup. That was the typical type of matchup where they for sure would have previously, in previous years, ran that ball a lot. You could even tell by the running back splits. I didn't talk about this for Derrick Henry in the running backs video, and Tyjae Spears. Derrick Henry was on the field for, I think, like 42% of the snaps, and Tyjae Spears was on the field for like 48% of the snaps. You can see a major difference in philosophy for this offense. And with them facing the Chargers this week, that potential that we know that Chick has as a talent just gets increased all the more, the chance for more targets, but that's what we need to see. We need to see some targets go his way. So he is a definite boom or bust option, as we suspected coming into the season. We don't know if the boom is there yet. I still think it is there, though, so that's why he is my tight end 20, going up against the Chargers yet again, like that. Then let's just finish up my final 2 tiers of tight ends. Irv Smith Jr., 3 tiers. Irv Smith Jr., Logan Thomas, Mike Gesicki, and Hayden Hurst, all following up that tier. You could start these guys, and I wouldn't be like, oh my god, that's a terrible start. They just didn't quite make the cut for me to be into this tier, but very close. Then we have Cade Otton, Dawson Knox, Adam Troutman, Durham Smythe, and Kylan Granson. And these are guys where you could start them, but at this point, I would actually try to convince you otherwise. I would just say, like, maybe don't do that. You've got to have a better option available, but there is potential for all of them to score some fantasy points. And then that brings us to my final tier at tight end 32 here with Tyler Conklin starting that off. Obviously, that has a lot to do with the new quarterback, followed by Austin Hooper, Taysom Hill, Donald Parham Jr., Trey McBride, Noah Fant, and Michael Mayer. Just basically only making the list because people keep ranking him high enough to make this list, and some people think he's start worthy, but he's not. Not for now, at least. Now, this week, DFS buys. Let's do it. I have several, so I have them into some categories here at a fair price without paying a premium, without paying up for those top tight ends. I think Cole Kmet at $4,400 is really, really fair for the expectations this week. Then we have some good buys, 2 of them. Starts off with Hunter Henry at $3,800. These are DK amounts, by the way. And then Pat Freiermuth at $3,700. I think that has a lot to do with the injury, I assume, given he did get a touchdown last week and everything. So might be a little bit of a discount for Pat Freiermuth. It's also not the best matchup in the world, but I don't hate it at all either. And you're always just looking for those tight touchdowns, which we know that he is a bit of a touchdown machine. Then in the discount bin, I have 3 names for you. And just like Hunter Henry, Pat Freiermuth, I'm the same order as the pricing I agree with. It's the same order that I have them ranked. Outside, actually, I do have Pat Freiermuth ranked higher than Hunter Henry, don't I? I have to, yeah. For daily fantasy football, I feel like the ceiling's a little bit higher for Hunter Henry, so I would probably pay that extra $100 for Henry if I had it. Okay, onto the discount bin. Dalton Kincaid at $3,300. He is my love 'em of the week, so yeah, I'll take a chance at that. Then Luke Musgrave at $3,200. I expressed my concerns for him, but I still feel comfortable with him. And then Logan Thomas at $3,100. And, he doesn't even make the same tier here. He's only $100 cheaper. But if you had to step down because you need that $100 elsewhere from Luke Musgrave or from Dalton Kincaid, $100, $200 elsewhere, then I think that the guy I would go with would be Logan Thomas at $3,100. Or you could go super contrarian here and go with Noah Fant at $2,900. He had no stats last week, but he was still the tight end on that offense by a slim margin, who was on the field the most. It was just a bad week for Seattle in week 1, going up against Detroit, though. This could be a revival week for that offense, possibly. Probably nobody's going to be putting Noah Fant on their rosters, right? Might be worth taking that shot if you like to play like that. All right, that is it for all of my rankings. Once again, you can find them all live, updated on the website all week. Come visit me Sunday, 1 hour prior to kickoff. And if you made it this far, drop a like, comment, subscribe, do whatever you'd like. Don't do any of them. I don't know. I love you very much. Thank you very much. And I will see you Saturday and maybe Sunday. And good luck with your fantasy teams this week. Bye-bye.